Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Monday, August 9th, 2021, and I'm not outside. I'm in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and it is raining outside. So I decided to do my live teaching inside my hotel room with an interesting piece of artwork behind me. Here at the Spring Hill Suites is where I'm at in Kenosha, and left Minneapolis. Actually was there this past weekend doing ministry there on Saturday night at the Minneapolis Marriott West, and some of the highlights that we had was it was neat to see a daughter who was an adult daughter bring her parents to come and to receive some healing on both sides, which is neat to always see a child, bringing, not a child, but a child of the adults actually being there with their parents. So that was really neat. And also had a couple that came with 6 kids that were like age 9 and under. And it's neat to see, again, the youth come out for that. And then there was a woman that came from St. Cloud, Minnesota, which I told her that I used to work in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Actually, I worked for a company that was based there, headquartered there. And so she was very pleasantly surprised to hear that I used to travel to St. Cloud, Minnesota on a regular basis. And then also another lady that lived just south of the Twin Cities, that is part of the Restored to Freedom team, has done a lot of helping others get set free and delivered. So anyway, it was a great weekend, a great turnout. And in fact, I'll share this, I forgot about this, that the couple that came with their 6 kids, she had felt led to speak to an employee of Marriott and let this woman know about the ministry that we were doing there. And so she ended up bringing that woman in at the end of the conference and told her that she wanted to buy some books for her. And then that woman was very, very touched because she said that I needed this. She goes, I was just, at the end of my rope and I was really struggling. And how amazing was it that you just happened to approach me and then talk about it. So that woman that came was an employee there of Marriott, and she actually was behind, I believe, behind the desk, greeting people when they came in and checking them in. So anyway, it was a very, very positive all around. I love these, and then it's kind of neat. Well, when we were there in Minneapolis, I felt led to go to where the George Floyd tragedy had happened and make some declarations and some prayers there. Well, then the Lord, I just said to go to Kenosha, Wisconsin. And so I came to Kenosha last night and walked around the beach a little bit, got some steps in. Lily enjoyed it and so forth, but also made some declarations here because of the things that had happened here as well. I think those happened in, I believe it was in August, if I'm not mistaken. So got to make some declarations here and release healing and restoration and so forth. So, and then it was neat. This morning was actually on the phone with my assistant Tina. There's Tina Kirkpatrick on Facebook. And we were talking about the upcoming Chicago event that's at the Chicago Marriott in Naperville. And we've always had our best turnouts of all the Marriott hotels in the United States has been in Chicago. And once again, Chicago is leading the way with the most attendees signed up on Eventbrite and on Facebook. And that's continuing to grow. Well, as I was talking to Tina, I was getting ready to tell her the numbers of the people that were signed up on Eventbrite, and I saw the number increase by 1 in real time. And I was like, what? I go, that's crazy. I go, I've never seen that happen. I had it on my phone basically in the organizer section that I have where I can update the event and so forth. And sure enough, another person just signed up for it. So I'm looking forward very much. That's August the 21st. So in less than 2 weeks now, coming to Chicago. Again, I've been hearing that there's more shootings, killings, murders than ever in Chicago. So they are in need, desperate need of helping people get healed and get delivered from their demons. There are so many people there. This is the solution for all the problems, essentially, in the world, is inner healing and deliverance. And it was neat when I was sharing on Saturday night, to have a daughter there with her parents, her older parents, the adult daughter. As I'm explaining this, you could tell, you could just see that the revelation was going off in the minds of all that were attending there. So really, really enjoyed this past weekend, and looking forward very much to Chicago coming up. So, all right, so my tour continues on. Again, August 21st, Chicago Marriott in Naperville, September 25th in Greenville, South Carolina, Faith Family Church. I've been asked actually to come back to Decorah, Iowa for a revival that they're doing, that I am considering. That's, I think, September 11th and 12th, something like that. So I may be coming back to Iowa. And then October, looking to nail down the dates in Florida, to come to Florida for a couple of events. And then October 31st, going out to Texas, Houston, Texas, at the Cool Church. And then November 5th and 6th in Waco, Texas, at Walking in Freedom. And we'll continue to add some more as we go. This weekend I was talking to a lady that was sharing with me that she used to have a mentor that unfortunately was wounded herself in growing up and never really has gotten completely healed yet. And so some of the mentoring that she was doing was off base, and it basically became more control and manipulation and isolation, and some of the things that she would say to the mentee were just not right. And one of the things that this person had told her was that because of some of the things that she had either done in her life or experienced in her life, that God couldn't use her in his plan A that he had. Because there was just, too many negative things that the woman had experienced or done, and then she would have to settle for a plan C or plan D, and God just couldn't use her because, she had done some sins she shouldn't have done, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what? I'm like, where is that in the Bible? I go, that's not true. I said, in fact, and the Lord spoke to me, he said, in fact, he said, I like to use those who have gone through the most either wounds, but also have done various sins or things that people would look down upon. He goes, because what happens in their life is that they are thankful and grateful that they can now help other people that have gone through and walked in their same shoes. There's a humility in those types of people. So the topic of the day is Christians who have been freed from a past of sin are grateful to be used by God. And it's so true. It is so true when you talk to certain people that, you see this in the church a lot in leadership, where they're like, well, I didn't do that, and I didn't do that sin, and I didn't do that sin. And so they feel like they are somehow better, can be used more than those who have done things in their past. And I was like, well, that's ridiculous. I go, if they take that attitude, I said, what we'll do is they will hurting people that need to have a person come alongside with love, genuine love, and the fruit of the Spirit. And I said, a lot of those times those people have pride in that, well, I've not done this, I've not done that. And that's like modern day Pharisees and the scribes, of course. And so it's interesting, the Lord spoke to me, he said, I want you to talk about that today on my live, because he said there's a lot of people out there that are being condemned, even convicted in a false court of pride from individuals in the church, where those people that are in the church need to repent for the pride that they're in. They need to humble themselves. And it is so true. God is raising up those of us who have done things that we're not proud of, that the church, the Pharisees, the scribes, would look down upon with their noses. And the Lord's saying, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise up those who have my humble heart, who would be considered it completely an honor and be grateful to be used at all, in helping other people in their lives to have healing. In fact, there was a lady that came to the meeting last weekend, and she was very hurt, very broken by people in the church, and I guess I feel a sense of righteous, I don't know, anger, I guess you can call it, at the people that are doing that, because I've seen it. I've seen the people that came against me, and I was like, wait a minute, I've gone through some abuse, and I would like to have a little bit of support, please. And I didn't have any of that. I had people that would come against me, that would believe the lies of in this case, my ex-wife, and it was like very painful. I'm like, I go, you wouldn't have endured what I went through. It was, and I'll say this, Lord's speaking to me now, there's a lot of you that have sacrificed, that have been abused. There's a difference between those who have been abused and you had no choice. You had to stay in that situation. But there's a lot of us who have willingly stayed in a relationship where it was very, very toxic. It could have been an adult relationship when you are, married to someone. It could be a relationship in work, where you have an employer that is abusing you, controlling you, manipulating you, hurting you. And in those cases, sometimes the Lord will have you stay in those toxic situations for a season, and if you're willingly able to sacrifice and to get hurt, by people that you have the ability to check out and to leave and to separate, and you yet go through it and you stay in that situation, the Lord will oftentimes anoint you stronger and reward you stronger for doing that, because you have a choice. There's a lot of times people say, well, I would never tolerate being abused and going through bad things. I would let them have it. You're a weak person for doing that. No, Jesus was a meek person, which means he had strength, but he had it under control. So he knew what he was dealing with, and he allowed himself oftentimes to get into these toxic situations. And there's people, in the Bible that went through toxic situations. You think about Hosea comes to mind. Hosea, his wife actually had cheated on him and betrayed him, and he stayed in that relationship and ultimately bought her back. Most people wouldn't have done that. They would have said, nope, I'm out of here. So the Lord, oftentimes, he likes to use those of us that have done things that we're not proud of in our past, and then we can come out of that. We're no longer that person, whereas the church and the Pharisees and the scribes would speak to you and say, well, look how bad that you are. You did this, 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 and this. And that's, again, talking about a person's past. Oftentimes those people that accuse us of that are doing things in their present that they're not proud of, that they don't want to have anyone know about. And then ultimately the Lord may end up demoting them and humbling them for their accusations of people that, are no longer that person. It's one thing if you've done various things, hurt people, sinned, and so forth, but you're no longer that person. That becomes your testimony. Now you can relate to a lot of people. You are humbled. You are no longer prideful and arrogant. You are a different person. Who are you today? Not who were you a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And the Lord loves people that have received, his grace and his love, and have changed, have transformed their lives. And when they have done that, then they count it an honor. I think about my life. I go, I count it an honor to do what I'm doing, to help people, truly help people. When I'm speaking and the light bulbs go off in the room and I can see it and the people are like, oh my gosh, never heard of this before. This makes sense. This is my life. This explains so many people's lives. And then we have a solution for it. Forgiving people who have hurt them, repenting for their pride, repenting for their sin and changing, becoming a different person. Then they can apologize to their children for the things they've said and done to them. The Lord's about restoring and redeeming. It's those who are staying in a pridefulness, a gossipiness and an arrogancy that if they don't change, and they're currently operating in that and they're in the church, the Lord's like, listen, it's time for them to change. It's time for them to repent. And if they won't do it, then the Lord may have to humble them in order to get their attention. And it's those types of people that will hurt people that are those who have already been hurt, and maybe they're in the process of healing, maybe they've already healed and they're now actually helping other people. So we have to understand, where are you currently at and in your walk? Think about this in the Bible. There's Rahab. She was didn't have a very good reputation, of course, but God rewarded her for her willingness to serve and to do what the Lord wanted. Those, of course, that would have been in the church would have looked down upon her and would have browbeat her. And then there's Paul. Remember Paul? He actually killed Christians. And you can imagine when you think about even the disciples, they were scared of him. They were, I'm not going to partner with this guy. This guy is crazy. He killed people. And they would have judged him. And there's a lot of people that would judge us that are in the church, look down upon us because of our past. And what I love to see is when people have changed. That's why I love doing the ministry that we have, because we see people that they'll be transparent after they're delivered. They'll say, yeah, I used to be very controlling, used to be very manipulative, I used to be sexually impure. I'm not that person anymore. And they're so thankful and so grateful to the Lord that they can be used at all. And then I see the people in the church that are prideful and arrogant, that want to keep reminding the person, well, you've made all these bad mistakes and all these decisions. You can't really be used in God's kingdom the way that God wanted to use you. I'm like, that's crazy. That's a lie. That's a lie from Satan. Do not believe that. And again, I'm speaking to a lot of people that are in our ministry that have been healed, that have been delivered. They are now have been certified with Restorative Freedom. They are now helping people get the word out and getting them healed and getting them delivered. And it's a beautiful thing. I see Ishi Patrick on here from Washington, D.C. I see Franklin Del Thomas on Facebook. I see a lot of people that they become, friends on Facebook, and then oftentimes I see them in person. And then it's neat to hear them personally saying, "This is amazing. This revelation of the truth is so true, and every church needs to be speaking about this so we can get other people who are wounded, who are hurting, to be able to change." And then those who have changed, they're no longer that person. Oh my gosh, they're so excited, they're so happy, and they're so grateful, so thankful to the Lord for no longer struggling with choosing and pursuing sinful lifestyles, and people that have had addictions. We talk about this a lot, that oftentimes that becomes an idol before the Lord. Well, the only reason they chose that was because they were hurt and wounded when they were growing up. Oftentimes from people that would call themselves Christians, people that are in the church, that are Pharisees and scribes. They don't have the good fruit for it. They've done damage to people, and they're not willing to humble themselves. Well, the Lord will oftentimes humble them. They need to, in order to truly have salvation, because their fruit stinks. Matthew 7:21-23 describes them. Lord, Lord, look at all I've done for you. I've cast out demons in your name. I've prophesied in your name, done many wonders in your name. Lord's like, not impressed. Sorry. You who choose to continue to pursue lawlessness, which is sin, he knows their hearts. And we're not talking about works. He's not looking for works. There's a lot of people that have evil hearts that do a lot of works, makes themselves look good. He's looking at your heart, your intentions of your heart and your mind. And do you have the fruit of the Spirit? So it's really neat, when people have seen that transformation in their lives, because God oftentimes, he wants to use those of us who have done some of the worst things out there so we can relate to other people and say, you know what, I used to do that. I used to struggle with that. We used to struggle sexually, being pure. Most people in the church don't want to admit the things they've done. Oh my gosh, no, I want to act like I'm perfect. And God's like, I can't really use that. Jesus came, and where did he go? He went to where the sinners were, and the sinners were grateful and thankful when he loved on them. Where the Pharisees and the scribes, they wouldn't talk to them because they felt they were above that. So if anyone speaks to you and says, you know what, God, he's not going to use you the way that he could have used you, say, stop it. That's a lie. So hello to Mindy Bush on YouTube. It's really neat to see both YouTube and Facebook. It's neat to see the numbers of people that follow on both because they're roughly the same. We've got almost 5,000 subscribers now on YouTube, and I have 5,000 friends on Facebook, along with another, I think, 1,500 followers. So it is neat as we continue to see YouTube to grow and grow and grow and grow. And one benefit to watching YouTube, say later in the broadcast, like the next day or the day after, you can watch it, and then if you can't watch the full segment, you can stop it, and then when you go back to it, it's right back where you were at. So the other thing that's a benefit to having YouTube is oftentimes if I'm posting other things and then you want to watch a video from a month ago, may take you a while to scroll back to find it, where you can find it a lot faster on YouTube. Actually, I have many playlists set up on YouTube. I have our daily teachings. I have my local ministry events that I do at different places around the country, and you can find teachings there a lot faster. So it's neat to see. We're seeing about, I don't know, about 10 new subscribers every 2 days. So it's very, very, very cool to see the continued growth. Other people, think about Peter. God really changed his personality. And I've heard a lot of times people say, well, this is just the way that I am. I'm abrasive, and I'm in your face, and they're controlling, and they're prideful, and they're arrogant. And we see people all the time. They transform and they change when they're healed of their past wounds and they're delivered from their demons. Their personality changes. They're nice people now. They don't have to have all the attention on themselves when they're in a group. They don't have to dominate speaking. They don't have to talk nonstop. They've changed, and they're grateful when that happens. And then they're transparent. So, yep, I used to do this. I used to do that. I used to do this bad thing, that bad thing. I'm not that person anymore. It's those that are still struggling with their pride, their arrogancy, gossiping and so forth, wanting to control people, wanting to look and appear. It's those people the Lord is in the process wanting to get a hold of and saying, stop behaving this way. This is not a godly, conducive way of behaving. So anyway, what I've noticed is those who have had a past that they can talk about and say, yeah, I did this bad thing and that bad thing. And it's not a big deal anymore. It means it no longer has any legal rights to torment them. They can be honest. They can relate to other people. And it's a good thing. It's a great thing when you can relate to other people. So anyway, coming back to Indiana actually today, and looking forward to reconnecting with some family and friends. And then we'll be going to Chicago in less than 2 weeks now, the 21st. Again, we're going to see probably the best turnout from the Marriott perspective. I love coming to the Marriotts, and again, I'm a very, 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 very frequent stayer. In the last couple of months, I'd say 90% of the time, 95% of the time, staying in Marriott hotels. So it's like my home away from home. It's funny. I end up staying in a place like, say West Des Moines, Iowa for a week, get to know the area, and then move on to the next place. And stayed in Minneapolis for a week, and able to go to the places there to pray for the atmosphere, in what legal rights that the enemy has, and taking authority. Same thing with here, coming to Kenosha. And we'll continue on traveling, helping people around the world. In fact, we're seeing more people that are getting certified from other countries now. We've had a couple from Africa that have been watching, and so I say hello to them. And one was in Uganda, one was in Kenya, and we're continuing to change the world, speaking the truth and setting the captives free. Because unfortunately, the mainstream church is not doing it. They're just not. It's not seeing the messages that talks about how Christians need to be healed and delivered from the demonic spirits that are tormenting them. They want to not talk about that. They want to talk about other verses that make them feel good. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I have visited some of these churches, these large churches, and medium-sized churches, and small churches, all around, and you can just sense that there's so many broken people that have been hurt, that have been wounded, and oftentimes you just can't tell a person, just forgive them, just get over it, that's in the past, forget it. It's like, you can't. Why? Because if you've still been hurt deeply, then the demonic spirits have legal rights. If you've got anger and bitterness and tears and you hear all those voices all the time, you're not going to have a good day. You're not going to have peace and joy. And so anyway, it's time. Christ is coming back for a pure and spotless bride, and it's time for change. So alrighty, I will let you guys go, and we'll see you on Facebook and YouTube. Alrighty, so I'm saying goodbye.